let us study Mendel's dihybrid cross. A dihybrid cross involved two pairs of contrasting characters. Mendel continued with his experiments on pea plants. This time, he crossed pea plants having round and yellow seeds with plants bearing wrinkled and green seeds. We can see that here two pairs of contrasting characters, namely seed shape and seed color, is involved. Since this experiment involves two pairs of contrasting characters or traits, it is known as Mendel's dihybrid cross, parental generation P1. Mendel obtained pea plant with round and yellow seeds and plants bearing wrinkled and green seeds. When the gametes of the P1 generation are formed, each pair of genes, RR or YY, segregates independently of the other. Thus, the RRYY plants would produce only RY gametes and not RR or YY gametes. Similarly, the RRYY plants would produce RY gametes. Thus, we conclude that in gametes, a pair of genes is represented by only one of its members, first filial generation F1. On the basis of the experiments with monohybrid crosses, Mendel anticipated that the F1 generation plants would be with round yellow seeds. His prediction was right. Though the genotype of the pea plants were RRYY, but phenotypically they were plants with round yellow seeds, as yellow color is dominant over green and round shape over wrinkled. The F1 plants are called dihybrid. The F1 plants produce four types of gametes. They are RY, 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 out of which RY and RY are similar to the P1 gametes, hence known as parental combinations, and the remaining two, that is RY and RY, are termed as recombinations. When F1 generation plants undergo self-pollination, they give rise to second filial generation F2. The four types of male gametes and the four types of female gametes give rise to 16 mating combinations, which are shown in the Punnett square or checkboard diagram. The male gametes are arranged on the top of the board and the female gametes on the side. It should be noted that the proportion of different types of F2 individuals are represented on the Punnett square and not their actual numbers. Mendel produced 556 pea plants, of which 315 had round yellow seeds, 101 were wrinkled yellow seeds, 108 were round green seeds, and 32 were wrinkled green seeds. Second filial generation F2. Observational study of F2 generation gives the results as shown. Phenotypic ratio is equal to 9:3:3:1. Let us do this activity. The above four phenotype involved 9 different genotype. Observe the figure and complete the following table. Allot numbers to the squares. The completed table is as shown on the screen. Write the genotypic ratio. Answer. Genotypic ratio is equal to 1 RRYY is to 4 RRYY is to 1 RRYY is to 1 RRYY is to 2 RRYY is to 2 RRYY is to 2 RRYY is to 2 RRYY is to 1 RRYY. Which squares show pure dominant and pure recessive traits? Answer: squares of genotype RRYY shows pure dominant and genotype with RRYY shows pure recessive traits. Answer the questions. What do you mean by DNA? Answer: DNA means deoxyribonucleic acid. What is the peculiarity of its structure? Answer: DNA is a long structure made from repeating units and two helical chains, each coiled round the same axis. Name the scientists who put forward the most popular model of DNA. Answer: James D. Watson and Francis Crick put forward the most popular model of DNA. How do particular traits or characteristics get expressed? Let us find out the mechanism of heredity. How does it function? We are all aware of the fact that cellular DNA is the source of information for synthesizing proteins in the cell. A fragment of DNA that provides complete information about one protein is referred to as gene for that protein. How are these proteins related to the traits in plants? For example, let us consider tallness as a trait. We know that in plants, growth hormones are present. The height gained by plants depends upon the amount of growth hormone produced by the plant. The quantity of hormones produced by the plants depends upon the efficiency of the concerned enzyme. Efficient enzymes produce hormones in greater quantity, resulting in the plants gaining height and thus becoming tall. On the other hand, if the enzymes are less efficient, they produce less quantity of growth hormone, which results in the stunted growth of the plants. The interpretations of Mendelian experiments that we discussed earlier in the chapter suggest that during sexual reproduction, each of the parent contributes equally to the DNA of the progeny. Both the parents must be contributing a copy of the same gene. Thus, each pea plant have two sets of all genes. Thus, each gamete has only one gene set. How do gametes or germ cells make a single set of genes from two sets? If the progeny plants inherited only one gene set from each parent, then the experiment of dihybrid cross will not be true, as two traits, namely R and Y, would then be joined to each other and cannot be independently inherited. But it does not happen that way, because the fact is that each gene set is not present as a single long thread of DNA, but as separate independent pieces, each called as a chromosome, one each from the male and female parents. Each gamete takes one chromosome from each pair, and when two such gametes combine, they restore the normal number of chromosomes in the progeny. This is the mechanism of inheritance, and it also explains the results of Mendel's experiments. Do you know how sex is determined, male or female, a boy or a girl? In sexual reproduction, individuals of the either sex are involved. Let us look at the factors for sex determination. In most of the organisms, there is a genetic or chromosomal mechanism for determination of sex. Some organisms depend entirely on environmental factors for this. Thus, in some animals, the temperature at which the fertilized eggs are kept decides the sex of the offspring. How is sex determined in human beings? Sex determination in human beings is genetical. In other words, we can say that the sex of an individual is determined by the genes inherited by it from its parents. Earlier, we studied that similar set of genes are inherited from the parents. In that case, how can genetic inheritance determine sex? Out of the specific number of chromosome pairs that each species has, one pair decides the sex of the individual. This pair is referred to as sex chromosome. The number of chromosomes for a particular species is specific. In human beings, there are 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs, out of which 22 pairs are autosomes and one pair is sex chromosome. In human males, two dissimilar chromosomes are present, longer X and shorter Y. In human females, similar longer X chromosomes are present. This figure shows that chance for the child being a male or female is 50%. All children inherit X chromosome from their mother. Thus, the sex of the offspring is determined by the chromosome that they inherit from their father. If it is X, then the offspring will be a daughter, and if Y, then it will be a son. Students, it is interesting to know that the opposite condition, like that of humans, also occur, in which males have XY chromosomes and female have XX chromosomes. Here, males are heterozygous and females are homozygous. Example, birds and lepidopterans like moths and butterflies. Here the gametes from the female decides the sex. The ratio is not affected. Various special cases and exceptions also occur. Sex reversal is possible in certain fishes, amphibians, and birds.